She was invited to her billionaire ex-husband's wedding by his cruel mother. Everyone froze when she arrived in a $500 million private jet with secret triplets. Part 2. Last time on Timeless Love Tales with Mr. Harrison. We witnessed an extraordinary moment of reckoning that captivated millions of you. Ava Mitchell, a brilliant businesswoman who rebuilt her life after a devastating betrayal, received an invitation to her ex-husband's wedding, sent by his cruel mother Eleanor with a mocking note. You should see what real class looks like. For years earlier, Eleanor had orchestrated Ava's downfall by slapping her, then pretending to be the victim. Nicholas, blinded by loyalty to his mother, believed the lie and cast Ava aside without question. What he never knew was that Ava left pregnant with triplets, children he would never meet, until the wedding day, when Ava arrived in her $500 million private jet with 3 4-year-olds bearing the unmistakable Carter gray eyes. The perfect society wedding crumbled. Nicholas was confronted with the children he never knew existed. Eleanor's carefully constructed world began to collapse, and the bride watched in horror as her groom's past literally walked through the door. In a moment that left our viewers breathless, Nicholas revealed he had discovered the truth about his mother's lies months after Ava left, but pride and shame kept him from finding her. As Ava prepared to leave with the children, she agreed to one concession: breakfast the next morning, where Nicholas could meet his children for the first time. Now, as the dust settles from that dramatic confrontation, we witness what happens when the cameras stop flashing and the real work of healing begins. I don't want him to be my daddy, Noah declared, arms crossed tightly over his chest as Ava helped him button his shirt. We were fine without him. Ava knelt before her son, gently uncrossing his arms. Sweetheart, I know this is confusing, but meeting your father doesn't change anything between us. Then why do we have to have breakfast with him? Noah's gray eyes, so painfully like Nicholas's, flashed with a mixture of fear and defiance. Because sometimes, Ava said carefully, people deserve a chance to make things right. Grace appeared in the doorway of their hotel suite, already dressed in the outfit Ava had laid out. I want to meet him, she said quietly. I want to know if he likes strawberries like I do. Ethan, ever the peacemaker, stood beside his sister. Maybe he knows how to build robots, or has a dog. I always wanted a dog. Ava gathered all 3 close, breathing in the scent of their shampoo and childhood innocence. Whatever happens today, remember what I've always told you. What matters most? That we have each other. The triplets recited in unison. Always, Ava affirmed, even as her own heart raced with uncertainty about the meeting ahead. Have you ever had to face someone who broke your trust completely, knowing that your decision would affect not just your life but the lives of innocent children? If you've ever had to put aside your own pain for the sake of others, hit that like button. And if you believe that some bridges, no matter how thoroughly burned, might still be rebuilt with enough courage and time, subscribe to Timeless Love Tales with Mr. Harrison for the conclusion to this powerful story of betrayal, redemption, and the complicated path to forgiveness. I'm Mr. Harrison, and today we continue the remarkable journey of Ava Mitchell, the woman who shocked her billionaire ex-husband's wedding by arriving with the triplets he never knew existed. But what happens after such a dramatic revelation? When the cameras stop flashing and reality sets in, can broken trust ever truly be repaired? The Four Seasons presidential suite felt both too large and too small as Ava checked her appearance one final time. She had deliberately chosen a simple outfit, tailored pants and a silk blouse that spoke of quiet confidence rather than trying to impress. This wasn't about rekindling anything with Nicholas. This was about her children. At precisely 10 o'clock, a knock sounded at the door. Ava took a deep breath, centering herself before opening it to reveal Nicholas Carter standing in the hallway. Gone was the formal tuxedo from yesterday's aborted wedding. Instead, he wore dark jeans and a cashmere sweater that made him look more approachable, more human. You came, she said simply, stepping aside to let him enter. I would have walked through fire to be here, Nicholas replied, his voice low and earnest. He held a large shopping bag in each hand. I wasn't sure what was appropriate. I didn't want to come empty-handed, but I also didn't want to seem like I was trying to buy their affection. Ava's expression softened slightly at his obvious nervousness. This was a side of Nicholas Carter the world never saw, uncertain, vulnerable, afraid of making a mistake. They're children, Nicholas. They'll be excited about presents regardless of what's inside. I tried to be thoughtful, he said, setting the bags down carefully. Where are they? In the living room area. They're nervous too. Ava led him through the suite's entryway. We've talked about you, of course. They know you're their father biologically, but they don't know you as a person yet. Nicholas nodded, absorbing her words. And you? How are you feeling about all this? Ava paused, considering her answer. Cautious, protective, and if I'm being completely honest, still angry. But I'm trying to set that aside for their sake. I understand, Nicholas said quietly. I don't deserve your forgiveness, Ava. I know that, but I'm grateful for this chance with them. When they entered the living room, 3 pairs of eyes immediately locked onto Nicholas. The triplets sat together on the sofa, a united front in the face of this stranger who was somehow part of them. The resemblance that had been striking from a distance was even more pronounced up close. Noah with Nicholas's serious expression and strong jawline, Ethan with his thoughtful gaze, and Grace with the same subtle dimple that appeared when she was thinking deeply. Hello, Nicholas said, his confident CEO voice nowhere to be found. I'm very happy to meet you. Grace was the first to respond, sliding off the sofa and approaching him with curious eyes. Do you like strawberries? She asked without preamble. Nicholas blinked, then smiled. A genuine smile that transformed his face. I do, actually, especially with a little cream. Me too. Grace's face lit up at this small connection. Mommy makes strawberry pancakes on Sundays sometimes. That sounds delicious, Nicholas replied, kneeling to meet her at eye level. I'd love to try them someday. Ethan approached next, studying Nicholas with analytical precision. Do you know how to build things? I'm making a robot for my science project. I studied engineering before I went into business, Nicholas told him. I'd be happy to help with your robot if you'd like. Noah remained on the sofa, watching the interaction with guarded eyes. Nicholas glanced at him, then back to Ava, silently asking for guidance. Noah, Ava said gently, would you like to say hello to your father? No, Noah replied bluntly. I don't need a dad. We were fine without him. Instead of appearing hurt or defensive, Nicholas nodded with understanding. That's fair. You don't know me yet, and I haven't earned a place in your life. I respect your honesty, Noah. Something in Nicholas's response, the lack of adult condescension, the acknowledgement of Noah's feelings as valid, seemed to surprise the boy. He didn't warm immediately, but some of the tension left his small shoulders. I brought some things for you, Nicholas said, retrieving the shopping bags. If you'd like to see them. The gifts revealed a thoughtfulness that surprised even Ava. For Grace, a collection of beautifully illustrated children's books about pioneering women in science and art. For Ethan, an advanced robotics kit that made his eyes widen with excitement. And for Noah, despite his standoffishness, a telescope with star charts and a handwritten note promising to show him constellations that weren't visible from city lights. How did you know? Ava asked quietly as the children examined their gifts. About their interests? Nicholas's expression was pained. I spent all night researching child development for 4-year-olds. Then I called your assistant Diane this morning, begged her actually, for any information about what they might like. She was reluctant, but eventually told me a few things. I think she felt sorry for me. The breakfast that followed was awkward at first, but gradually eased into something almost comfortable. Nicholas answered the triplets' questions with patience and honesty, never talking down to them or dismissing their curiosity. He told them about building his first computer at 12, about the treehouse his father had helped him construct before he died, about his dog Max who had been his best friend through a lonely childhood. Where is Max now? Ethan asked, fascinated by stories of the golden retriever who could apparently fetch the newspaper and knew how to open the refrigerator. He lived a long, happy life, Nicholas explained gently. But that was many years ago. Could we get a dog? Ethan turned to Ava, hope shining in his eyes. That's something we'd need to discuss another time, Ava deflected, though she couldn't help noticing how naturally Nicholas had connected with the children in just a short time. It was a side of him she had glimpsed during their marriage. His ability to be fully present when he chose to be, to listen with genuine interest rather than just waiting for his turn to speak. As the meal concluded, Nicholas helped clear the dishes. Another surprise, as the Nicholas she had known had rarely set foot in a kitchen. "Thank you for this," he said quietly when the children were distracted by a cartoon playing on the suite's television. "I know it couldn't have been an easy decision." "It wasn't," Ava confirmed. "But they deserve to know you, regardless of our past." Nicholas hesitated, then asked the question that had clearly been weighing on him. "What happens now? I don't want to overstep, but I also don't want to disappear from their lives again." Ava considered her response carefully. "We live in San Francisco. You're here in New York. That's not going to change overnight." "I could visit," Nicholas suggested immediately. "Regularly. And when they're comfortable, perhaps they could visit me sometimes. I have plenty of room, and I could make sure it's child-friendly." "One step at a time," Ava cautioned. "They've just met you. Let's not rush into overnight visits." Nicholas nodded, accepting her boundaries. "Whatever you think is best. I'll follow your lead on this, Ava. I know I have no right to make demands." Before she could respond, her phone chimed with an incoming call. Glancing at the screen, Ava frowned. "It's Marcus. I should take this. He wouldn't call on a Sunday unless it was important." Stepping away, she answered the call, her expression growing increasingly concerned as she listened. "When did this happen? Are you sure?" "Yes, I understand. I'll handle it." When she returned, Nicholas immediately sensed her distress. "What's wrong?" "Someone leaked photos from the wedding yesterday," Ava explained, her voice tight. "They're all over social media and the business news sites. Tech CEO's secret family crashes billion-dollar wedding. Our stock is already responding to the speculation." Nicholas's expression darkened. "I'm sorry. This is my fault." "It's no one's fault," Ava sighed. "It was inevitable once we showed up at such a high-profile event. I just need to get back to San Francisco and handle the fallout before the markets open tomorrow." "Let me help," Nicholas offered immediately. "I can issue a joint statement, take responsibility for the situation. Make it clear that this was my failing, not yours." Ava studied him, weighing his offer against her instinct to handle crises independently, as she had done for 4 years. "A joint statement might actually help," she conceded finally. "But I need to get the children home and meet with my executive team." "Use my jet," Nicholas suggested. "It's fueled and ready at Teterboro. You can be back in San Francisco in 5 hours." "We have our own transportation," Ava reminded him, a hint of her hard-won pride surfacing. Nicholas smiled slightly. "Of course you do. The Horizon one. I should have remembered that Ava Mitchell doesn't need rescuing." Something in his tone, admiration rather than condescension, made Ava soften slightly. "Thank you for the offer, though, and for understanding about cutting this short." As Ava gathered the children and their belongings, Nicholas knelt to say goodbye to each of them. "I hope I can see you again soon," he told them. "Maybe next time I can show you some of my favorite places in New York." "Can you come see my robot when it's finished?" Ethan asked eagerly. "I'd be honored," Nicholas assured him. Grace hugged him spontaneously, her small arms wrapping around his neck. "Thank you for my books. I like the one about the lady astronaut best." "You're very welcome," Nicholas replied, his voice thick with emotion as he carefully returned her embrace. Noah hung back, still wary, but offered a small concession. "The telescope is cool. Thanks." "You're welcome, Noah," Nicholas said, respecting the boy's boundaries by not attempting physical contact. "Maybe someday we could look at the stars together." As they prepared to leave, Nicholas handed Ava a business card. "My personal number is on the back. Not my assistant, not my office. Me. Anytime, day or night." Ava tucked the card into her purse with a nod. I'll be in touch once we're settled back home and I've had time to think about next steps. That's all I can ask for, Nicholas said. At the door, he paused. Ava, for what it's worth, seeing what you've built, both with Horizon and with our children, it's extraordinary. You're extraordinary. The compliment, delivered with simple sincerity, caught her off guard. Goodbye, Nicholas, she said, unable to formulate a proper response to praise from the man who had once broken her heart so completely. As the door closed behind them, Nicholas stood alone in the suite that still held traces of his children's presence. A half-eaten piece of toast, a crayon that had rolled under the table, the faint scent of the shampoo Ava used on their hair. For years of absence condensed into a 2-hour breakfast that had simultaneously changed everything and solved nothing. His phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. 27 missed calls from his mother. 15 from Vanessa. Dozens from board members, business associates, and the wedding planner still dealing with the chaos he had left behind. The real world demanding his attention. But for the first time in his adult life, Nicholas Carter had absolute clarity about his priorities. He had children, 3 remarkable, beautiful children who shared his blood and Ava's spirit. Everything else, his mother's manipulation, Vanessa's wounded pride, the business implications, the social fallout, was secondary. With newfound purpose, he began making calls of his own. If you've ever had to rebuild trust that was completely shattered, hit that like button. And if you believe that sometimes the most important journeys begin with a simple breakfast and honest conversation, subscribe to Timeless Love Tales with Mr. Harrison. The path to redemption is never straight or simple, and what Nicholas does next will test not only his resolve but Ava's capacity for forgiveness in ways neither of them could have imagined. The media storm hit with full force by the time Ava and the triplets landed in San Francisco. Paparazzi swarmed the private airfield, forcing Ava's security team to form a protective barrier around the children as they made their way to the waiting car. "Mommy, why are all those people taking pictures?" Grace asked, clinging tightly to Ava's hand. "They're just curious about us," Ava explained gently, shielding her daughter's face from the flashing cameras. "But we don't have to talk to them." At Horizon headquarters, Marcus had assembled the executive team for an emergency meeting. The company's stock had dropped 8% in pre-market trading, and investors were demanding answers about how Ava's personal life might affect the company's stability. "The board is concerned," Marcus informed her as they walked briskly toward the conference room. "Not about the children themselves, but about the Carter connection. There are questions about potential conflicts of interest, about whether this might lead to a hostile takeover attempt." Ava's expression hardened. "Horizon is my company. I built it from nothing while raising 3 children alone. If the board thinks I would ever compromise that, they don't know me at all." The meeting was tense but productive. Ava addressed each concern directly, her composure never wavering despite the personal nature of the crisis. By the end, she had authorized a press release confirming that she had 3 children with Nicholas Carter, that the relationship had ended before she knew about the pregnancy, and that both parents were now committed to co-parenting amicably. "What about Carter Enterprises?" one board member asked. "They're our competitor in several markets. This creates complications. My personal life and Horizon's business operations remain entirely separate," Ava stated firmly. "That will not change. If anything, this situation reinforces the importance of our independence and continued innovation." As the meeting concluded, her phone buzzed with a text from Nicholas. "Joint statement released as discussed. Taking full responsibility for past mistakes. Hope it helps. How are the children?" Before she could respond, another message appeared. "Also, I've scheduled a press conference for tomorrow morning to address questions directly and keep the focus off you and the children. Let me know if there's anything specific you want me to say or avoid." Ava felt a surprising wave of gratitude. Nicholas was doing exactly what he had promised, taking responsibility and trying to protect them from the media frenzy. It was more consideration than she had expected. "Children are fine but tired," she texted back. "Thank you for the statement and press conference. Just keep the focus on the past mistakes rather than future plans. We're still figuring those out." His response came immediately. "Understood." taking it one day at a time. That evening, as Ava tucked the exhausted triplets into bed, Noah finally asked the question she had been expecting. Are we going to have to see him a lot now? Ava sat on the edge of his bed, choosing her words carefully. Your father wants to be part of your lives, but we'll take it slowly, and no one will force you to do anything you're not comfortable with. I don't want things to change, Noah insisted, his small face serious in the glow of his nightlight. Some things will change, Ava acknowledged honestly, but the most important things will stay the same. We'll still be a family. We'll still have our home and our routines. Having your father in your life doesn't take anything away. It just adds something new. Noah considered this, his expression thoughtful beyond his years. Did you love him before? The question caught Ava off guard. Yes, she admitted softly. I loved him very much once. But he hurt you, Noah stated rather than asked. Even at 4, he was perceptive enough to have pieced this together. Yes, he did. Ava stroked her son's hair gently. But sometimes people make mistakes, even big ones. What matters is whether they learn from them and try to do better. Is he trying to do better? Noah's gray eyes, so like Nicholas's, searched her face for the truth. Ava hesitated, then nodded. I think he is, but only time will tell for sure. Across the country, Nicholas Carter faced his own reckoning. The Carter mansion, once a symbol of family legacy and power, felt cold and empty as he walked through its grand entrance. Eleanor was waiting for him in the drawing room, her posture rigid with barely contained fury. How dare you humiliate me like this? She began without preamble, abandoning Vanessa at the altar, issuing that self-flagellating statement to the press. The Sinclairs are threatening to pull out of the merger. The board is in an uproar. And for what? For that woman and her children. They're my children too, Mother, Nicholas replied calmly, pouring himself a drink. My children, whom I didn't know existed because of your lies. You can't possibly believe they're yours, Eleanor scoffed. This is obviously a ploy to extract money from you. A paternity test. We'll confirm exactly what I already know by looking at them. Nicholas cut her off. They have our eyes, Mother. Carter eyes. Your own mother's features. They're mine. Even if they are, Eleanor persisted, changing tactics. That doesn't mean you had to destroy everything we've built. The wedding could have proceeded. Arrangements could have been made quietly afterward. Nicholas stared at his mother, truly seeing her perhaps for the first time. Do you hear yourself? You're suggesting I should have married a woman I don't love while my actual children sat in the audience? That I should have continued living a lie to preserve appearances? It wouldn't be the first time a man in your position made such accommodations, Eleanor said dismissively. Your father was miserable, Nicholas finished, and made you miserable too. Is that really the legacy you want me to continue? Eleanor's composure faltered momentarily before she regained control. You're being dramatic. Your father and I had a perfectly acceptable marriage. Acceptable, Nicholas repeated. What a telling word. Not loving, not fulfilling, acceptable. Well, I want more than that, Mother. And I want more for my children than to grow up thinking that lies and manipulation are normal parts of family life. Those children have nothing to do with this family, Eleanor declared coldly. They weren't raised as Carters. They don't understand our world, our responsibilities. Thank God for that, Nicholas said quietly, because our world nearly cost me everything that actually matters. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. You can't possibly be thinking of reconciling with her. After she deliberately humiliated you at your own wedding. I humiliated myself, Nicholas corrected. Ava simply showed up with the truth I was too cowardly to face. He set down his glass and faced his mother directly. I'm not discussing my relationship with Ava with you. That's between her and me. What I am telling you is that Noah, Grace, and Ethan are my children, which makes them Carters whether you accept them or not. And if I don't? Eleanor challenged, her voice dangerously soft. Then you'll have no place in their lives, Nicholas stated simply. Or in mine. The ultimatum hung in the air between them. decades of power dynamics shifting in a single moment. Eleanor had never imagined her son would choose anyone over her, least of all the woman she had worked so hard to remove from his life. "You don't mean that," she said finally, uncertainty creeping into her voice for the first time. "I've never meant anything more," Nicholas assured her. "I've spent my entire adult life seeking your approval, making decisions based on what you thought was best. That ends today." As he turned to leave, Eleanor called after him, her voice suddenly vulnerable. "Nicholas, please. They're strangers to you. I'm your mother." He paused at the doorway, looking back at the woman who had shaped so much of his life, for better and worse. "Yes, you are. And I'll always be your son. But I'm also their father. It's time I started acting like it." The next morning, Nicholas Carter stood before a forest of microphones, cameras flashing as he addressed the press gathered outside Carter Enterprises headquarters. Gone was the uncertain man who had nervously brought gifts to meet his children. In his place stood a leader taking control of his narrative. "For years ago, I made a terrible mistake," he began, his voice steady and clear. "I chose to believe a lie about my then-wife, Ava Mitchell, and I ended our marriage without giving her the chance to defend herself. I later discovered the truth, but by then, my pride prevented me from trying to make amends." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in before continuing. "What I didn't know was that Ava was pregnant when we separated. She gave birth to triplets, 2 sons and a daughter, and has raised them brilliantly on her own, while simultaneously building Horizon Technologies into one of the most innovative companies in the world." A reporter called out, "Are you planning to seek custody of the children?" Nicholas shook his head firmly. "I have no intention of disrupting the stable, loving home Ava has created. My only hope is to earn a place in my children's lives, on whatever terms Ava deems appropriate. They are my priority now. Not corporate mergers, not social standing, not anything else." "What about your mother's role in the separation?" another journalist asked, clearly fishing for more drama. Nicholas's expression remained composed. "My family's private matters will remain private. What matters now is moving forward in a way that puts the children's well-being first." "And your relationship with Ms. Mitchell?" came another question. "Is there any chance of reconciliation?" "Ava Mitchell is an extraordinary woman who deserves nothing but respect," Nicholas replied carefully. "She owes me nothing. My focus is solely on being the best father I can be to our children, and supporting her however she allows me to." As the press conference concluded, Nicholas's phone buzzed with a text from Ava. "Saw the press conference. Thank you for your discretion and respect." A moment later, another message appeared. "The children have been asking when they'll see you again. If you're serious about being in their lives, we need to establish some consistency. Can you come to San Francisco this weekend?" Nicholas felt his heart leap with unexpected hope. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't reconciliation, but it was a beginning. A chance he hadn't dared to imagine just days ago. "I'll be there," he replied immediately. "Just tell me when and where." Over the next 3 months, a new pattern emerged. Nicholas flew to San Francisco every other weekend, spending Saturday and Sunday with the triplets. At first, these visits happened under Ava's watchful eye in public places: parks, museums, child-friendly restaurants. Gradually, as the children grew more comfortable with him and he proved his reliability, the outings extended to include activities without Ava present. Noah remained the most cautious of the 3, but even he began to warm to Nicholas after discovering their shared interest in astronomy. The telescope Nicholas had given him became a bridge between them, father and son spending hours identifying constellations and discussing the mysteries of the universe. Ethan flourished under Nicholas's engineering guidance, his robot project evolving into an impressive creation that won first place at his preschool science fair. And Grace simply adored her father, collecting small mementos from their outings: a ticket stub from the aquarium, a pressed flower from the botanical garden, a feather found during a walk. In a special box she called her Daddy Treasures. For Ava, watching this relationship develop brought complicated emotions. There was joy in seeing her children connect with their father, pain in witnessing the easy bond that should have existed from birth, and lingering anger at the years lost to Nicholas's cowardice and Eleanor's manipulation. "You're handling this with remarkable grace," Marcus commented one evening as they reviewed quarterly projections in her office. "I'm not sure I could be so generous in your position." "It's not about generosity," Ava replied, her gaze drifting to the framed photo of the triplets on her desk. "It's about giving them something I can't provide alone. A father who loves them. Whatever happened between Nicholas and me, he's proving to be a good father." "And what about between you and Nicholas?" Marcus asked carefully. "The way he looks at you sometimes." Ava shook her head firmly. "That's not on the table. Co-parenting is one thing. Reopening old wounds is another entirely." But despite her resolve, Ava couldn't deny that something was shifting between them. Small moments, Nicholas remembering how she took her coffee, his genuine interest in Horizon's latest innovations, the way he never overstepped the boundaries she set, began to accumulate, creating tiny cracks in the wall she had built around her heart. The real test came when Eleanor Carter unexpectedly appeared at Horizon's headquarters one Tuesday afternoon, requesting a private meeting with Ava. "She's waiting in the main conference room," Diane informed her nervously. "I tried to ask if she had an appointment, but she's intimidating." "Yes, that's her specialty," Ava replied dryly. "It's fine, Diane. I'll handle it." Eleanor Carter looked exactly as Ava remembered, elegant, poised, and coldly beautiful despite her advancing years. She stood as Ava entered the room, her expression unreadable. "Ava," she greeted with a slight nod. "Thank you for seeing me." "I'm curious what brings you to San Francisco," Ava replied, remaining standing rather than taking a seat. "Nicholas didn't mention you were visiting." "Nicholas doesn't know I'm here," Eleanor admitted. "This visit is my own initiative." Ava raised an eyebrow. "I see. And what exactly did you hope to accomplish by coming here unannounced?" Eleanor hesitated, seeming to choose her words with unusual care. "I wanted to see you. To see this." She gestured vaguely at the Horizon offices visible through the glass walls. "To understand what my son sees." "In my company?" Ava asked, deliberately misunderstanding. "In you," Eleanor clarified. "In the life you've built. In the future he seems determined to pursue." Ava felt a flicker of alarm. "Nicholas and I are co-parenting, nothing more. If he's given you another impression—" "He hasn't said anything explicitly," Eleanor interrupted. "He doesn't confide in me the way he once did. But I know my son. I see how he's changed since discovering the children, since rediscovering you." "People change when they become parents," Ava said carefully. "It shifts their priorities." "It's more than that." Eleanor moved to the window, looking out at the San Francisco skyline. "He's different, more decisive, more willing to stand his ground. Even the board has noticed." "And this concerns you?" Ava asked, trying to understand the purpose of this unexpected visit. Eleanor turned back to face her, her expression surprisingly vulnerable. "What concerns me is losing him completely. He's all I have, Ava. My only child. My legacy." For the first time, Ava saw beyond Eleanor's perfect facade to the fear beneath. The fear of a woman who had built her entire identity around her son and his success, who now faced the prospect of being sidelined in his life. "I didn't come here to cause trouble," Eleanor continued when Ava remained silent. "I came to understand, and perhaps to ask if there might be room in your children's lives for a grandmother, despite our history." The request was so unexpected that Ava momentarily lost her composure. "You want to be part of their lives? After everything you did to make sure they wouldn't exist?" "I made a terrible mistake," Eleanor acknowledged, the admission clearly costing her considerable pride. "I thought I was protecting Nicholas from a marriage I believed was wrong for him. I never imagined there would be children." "Would it have made a difference if you had known?" Ava challenged. Eleanor met her gaze directly. "I'd like to think so, but truthfully I don't know. I was a different person then. More certain of my rightness, more willing to manipulate outcomes." The honesty of the answer surprised Ava. She had expected denials, justifications, perhaps even threats. Not this quiet acknowledgement of fault. "Why now?" she asked finally. "Why this sudden desire for reconciliation?" "Because I've seen what my actions cost," Eleanor replied simply. "Not just you or Nicholas, but those children. My grandchildren. I've seen photos, you know. Nicholas keeps them on his desk now. They're extraordinary, beautiful, and I will never know their first words, their first steps. I'll never be the grandmother I could have been to them." Ava studied the older woman, searching for signs of manipulation or insincerity. But all she saw was regret. Genuine regret from a woman who rarely admitted to making mistakes. "I can't make any promises," Ava said finally. "The children's well-being comes first. Any relationship with you would need to develop slowly, carefully, with their comfort as the priority." "I understand," Eleanor nodded, a flicker of hope crossing her features. "I'm willing to follow whatever guidelines you set. I'd like a chance to know them, to perhaps, in time, earn a place in their lives." As Eleanor prepared to leave, she paused at the door. "He never stopped loving you, you know? Even when he thought he hated you, it was just pain masquerading as anger." Eleanor's words hung in the air between them. "I see it now when he speaks of you. The same light in his eyes that was there when you first met." Ava kept her expression carefully neutral. "Nicholas and I have a complicated history. What matters now is our ability to co-parent effectively." "Of course," Eleanor replied, a knowing look in her eyes that suggested she wasn't convinced by Ava's professional tone. "Thank you for hearing me out. I'll wait for your call regarding the children." After Eleanor left, Ava stood motionless in the conference room, trying to process the unexpected conversation. The Eleanor Carter who had just left was almost unrecognizable from the woman who had orchestrated her downfall 4 years ago. Humbled, vulnerable, seeking connection rather than control. People could change. Ava knew this from her own transformation, from heartbroken ex-wife to successful CEO and confident mother. But could Eleanor truly have changed enough to be trusted around the triplets? And what about Eleanor's parting words about Nicholas's feelings? That evening, as Ava helped the children prepare for bed, her phone chimed with a text from Nicholas. "Just heard from Mother that she visited you today. I had no idea she was planning this. Are you okay?" Ava waited until the triplets were asleep before calling him. "Your mother surprised me at my office," she said when he answered. "It was unexpected." "I'm so sorry," Nicholas replied immediately. "I had no idea she was even in San Francisco. What did she want?" "To meet her grandchildren, apparently." Ava settled onto her balcony, watching the city lights flicker below. She seemed different, almost humble. Nicholas's surprise was evident in his voice. "Humble isn't a word I've ever associated with my mother. What exactly did she say?" Ava recounted the conversation, omitting only Eleanor's final comment about Nicholas's feelings. "I didn't make any promises," she concluded, "but I didn't refuse outright either." "It's entirely your decision," Nicholas assured her. "After what she did, you'd be completely justified in keeping her away from the children forever." "But they're your children too," Ava pointed out. "And she's their grandmother, for better or worse. What do you think? Do you believe she's genuinely changed?" Nicholas was quiet for a moment, considering. "I think losing control over me has forced her to reevaluate her approach. Whether that's genuine change or just tactical adjustment, I'm not entirely sure. But I do know she's been different since the wedding. Less manipulative, more reflective." "People can change," Ava said softly, thinking of her own journey. "Yes, they can," Nicholas agreed, his voice warming. "Some more dramatically than others." A comfortable silence fell between them, the kind they had shared in the early days of their relationship before Eleanor's interference and their own mistakes had torn them apart. "The children miss you," Ava said finally. "Ethan keeps talking about the model rocket you promised to help him build next weekend." "I miss them too," Nicholas admitted. "More than I ever thought possible. It's strange how quickly they've become the center of my world." "That's parenthood for you," Ava replied with a small smile. It rewrites your priorities overnight. Not just parenthood, Nicholas said quietly. Being around you again. It's made me realize how much I lost when I let you go. Not just as the mother of my children, but as the person who always saw me clearly, who challenged me to be better than I was. Ava felt her heart rate quicken at his words. Nicholas, I'm not asking for anything, he interrupted gently. I know I haven't earned that right. I just wanted you to know that I see now what I was too blind to see before. How extraordinary you are, and how fortunate I am that you're allowing me any place in your life at all. After they hung up, Ava remained on the balcony, her thoughts swirling with the day's revelations. Eleanor seeking reconciliation, Nicholas acknowledging deeper feelings, the careful boundaries she had established beginning to blur at the edges. The next morning brought another surprise. A delivery arrived at Ava's home. Not flowers or jewelry or any of the extravagant gifts Nicholas might have sent during their marriage. Instead, it was a simple wooden box, beautifully crafted but understated. Inside was a collection of small items. A ticket stub from their first date to a tech conference, a pebble from the beach where he had proposed, a pressed flower from their wedding centerpiece, and other mementos from their shared past. A note accompanied the box. I found these while clearing out my old office. They reminded me of a time when I was truly happy, even if I didn't fully appreciate it then. No pressure, no expectations, just returning pieces of our history that belong to you as much as to me. Nicholas, the gesture touched Ava deeply. It wasn't a grand romantic overture or an attempt to buy her affection. It was simply an acknowledgement of their shared past, the good parts that had existed alongside the pain. That weekend, when Nicholas arrived for his regular visit with the children, something subtle had shifted between them. Their usual polite distance gave way to moments of genuine connection, shared smiles at Ethan's enthusiasm for his rocket, quiet conversations while Grace showed off her latest artwork, collaborative problem-solving when Noah had a meltdown over a broken toy. Would you like to stay for dinner? Ava found herself asking as the afternoon drew to a close. I'm making pasta. Nothing fancy, but there's plenty. Nicholas looked surprised but pleased by the invitation. I'd like that very much. Thank you. Dinner was surprisingly comfortable. The five of them around Ava's kitchen table, the children chattering about their day, Nicholas and Ava exchanging amused glances over their antics. It felt, in some strange way, like the family they might have been if things had gone differently. After the children were in bed, Nicholas helped Ava clear the dishes, the domestic task feeling both foreign and familiar between them. Thank you for including me tonight, he said as he dried the last plate. It meant a lot. It felt right, Ava admitted. The children enjoyed having you here for the whole evening routine. Just the children? Nicholas asked, his tone light but his eyes serious as they met hers. Ava hesitated, then decided on honesty. No, not just the children. I enjoyed it too. Nicholas set down the dish towel, turning to face her fully. Ava, I know we've been focused on co-parenting, on keeping things amicable for the triplets, and I respect the boundaries you've set. But I'd be lying if I said I haven't thought about whether there might someday be a chance for us to. To what? Ava asked when he trailed off. To see if there's still something worth rebuilding between us, he finished quietly. Not just as co-parents, but as us. Nicholas and Ava. The question hung between them, loaded with 4 years of history, pain, growth, and unexpected new beginnings. I don't know, Ava answered honestly. So much has happened. We're different people now. We are, Nicholas agreed. But maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe we needed to become these versions of ourselves to have any chance at getting it right. Ava studied him, this new Nicholas who admitted mistakes, who put his children first, who respected her boundaries even while hoping for more. He was right. They had both changed, grown in ways that might actually make them better suited now than they had been before. I'm not ready to jump into anything, she said finally. There's too much at stake. The children, our companies, our own hearts. But I'm not saying no to the possibility. I'm saying, let's see where this goes, slowly and carefully. Nicholas's smile was like sunrise breaking through clouds. Slowly and carefully sounds perfect. We have time. As he prepared to leave, Ava walked him to the door. About your mother, she said, remembering their unfinished conversation. I've been thinking about her request. What would you think about a short, supervised visit? Perhaps lunch next weekend when you're here? Just to see how it goes. Are you sure? Nicholas asked, clearly surprised by her willingness to consider it. No, Ava admitted with a small smile. But I believe in second chances. Some people just need more time to earn them than others. Nicholas reached out, gently squeezing her hand. Thank you. For considering it. For today. For everything. The touch was brief but electric. A simple connection that carried echoes of what had once been between them and whispers of what might be again. Good night, Nicholas, Ava said softly, not pulling her hand away immediately. Good night, Ava, he replied, his eyes holding hers for a moment longer than necessary before he finally turned to go. As she closed the door behind him, Ava leaned against it, her mind replaying the evening. The family dinner, the honest conversation, the tentative step toward something neither of them had dared to imagine just months ago. For years earlier, she had walked away from Nicholas Carter with nothing but her pride and the unknown lives growing inside her. She had rebuilt herself from that broken place, creating a company and raising children who were her greatest joy and achievement. She didn't need Nicholas to complete her life. She had made it whole on her own terms. But perhaps there was room for something new now. Not a return to what was, but a careful exploration of what might be. Two people who had hurt each other deeply, who had grown from that pain, finding their way back to each other not through obligation or convenience, but through genuine choice. The following Saturday, Eleanor Carter sat nervously in Ava's living room, watching as Nicholas helped the triplets build an elaborate fort out of couch cushions and blankets. She looked smaller somehow, less imposing than the woman who had once ruled the Carter mansion with an iron will disguised as social grace. They're remarkable, Eleanor said quietly to Ava. So bright, so full of personality already. They are, Ava agreed, watching as Grace directed her brothers on the proper architectural principles of fort construction, her little face serious with concentration. You've done an extraordinary job with them, Eleanor continued, genuine admiration in her voice. Far better than I did with Nicholas, I'm afraid. The admission surprised Ava. What do you mean? Eleanor sighed, her gaze still on the children. I raised Nicholas to be a Carter first and a person second. Legacy, reputation, appearances, those were the values I instilled. But watching him with them, she gestured toward Nicholas, who was now crawling into the fort at Ethan's insistent tugging. He's more present, more genuine with them than I ever allowed him to be with me. It's not too late, Ava found herself saying, to build a different kind of relationship with him, with all of them. Eleanor turned to her, eyes bright with unshed tears. Do you really believe that? After everything I did? Ava considered the question seriously. I believe people can change when they truly want to. The question is whether you're willing to do the work, to earn trust rather than demand it, to listen rather than dictate, to accept these children exactly as they are rather than trying to mold them into your idea of what Carters should be. I'd like to try, Eleanor said softly, if you'll allow me the chance. Before Ava could respond, Noah approached them cautiously. He had been watching his grandmother from a distance all afternoon, assessing this new person with the wariness that was so characteristic of him. Are you really our grandmother? He asked Eleanor directly, his gray eyes, so like Nicholas's, so like Eleanor's own mother's, studying her intently. Eleanor nodded, careful to keep her tone gentle rather than commanding. Yes, I am. My name is Eleanor. Why haven't we met you before? Noah pressed, always the one to ask the difficult questions. Eleanor glanced at Ava, silently seeking guidance on how to answer. Ava gave a small nod, encouraging honesty within appropriate boundaries. Because I made mistakes, Eleanor told him simply. I wasn't very kind to your mother a long time ago, and it took me too long to realize that was wrong. Noah considered this, his expression serious. My mom says when you make a mistake, you have to say sorry and try to do better. Your mother is very wise, Eleanor replied, a hint of a smile touching her lips. I am sorry, and I am trying to do better. Noah studied her for another long moment, then delivered his verdict. Okay, do you want to see our fort? I made the entrance. It was a small moment, a tentative beginning rather than a dramatic reconciliation. But as Eleanor carefully followed Noah to the cushion fort, accepting Grace's detailed instructions on the proper way to enter and Ethan's excited explanation of how they'd used physics principles to support the roof, Ava saw something she had never expected. The formidable Eleanor Carter humbling herself to enter a child's world on the child's terms. Nicholas caught Ava's eye across the room, his expression a mixture of amazement and gratitude. In that shared glance was an acknowledgement of how far they had all come, from betrayal and bitterness to this tentative new beginning. Later, after Eleanor had left and the children were in bed, Nicholas and Ava sat on her balcony. The city lights spread before them like earthbound stars. Thank you for today, Nicholas said, his voice quiet in the evening stillness. Seeing Mother with the children, it was something I never thought possible. She's trying, Ava acknowledged. That counts for something. It counts for everything, Nicholas replied. Trying is where healing begins. Ava turned to look at him. This man who had once broken her heart so completely and was now carefully, patiently showing her who he had become. Is that what we're doing? Healing. Nicholas reached across the space between them, his hand finding hers in a gentle touch that asked for nothing but offered everything. I hope so, he said simply. I hope we're healing the past and maybe, if we're very fortunate, building something new. Something stronger because of what we've learned, not in spite of it. Ava didn't pull her hand away. Instead, she turned it slightly, allowing their fingers to intertwine. A small gesture that spoke volumes about possibility and second chances. Slowly and carefully, she reminded him, but there was warmth in her voice now, and perhaps the faintest hint of hope. Always, Nicholas promised, his eyes holding hers in the gentle darkness. We have all the time in the world. And in that moment, with their children sleeping peacefully inside and the future stretching before them full of possibility, Ava Mitchell allowed herself to believe that perhaps some bridges, no matter how thoroughly burned, could indeed be rebuilt, stronger and more beautiful than before. If the story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to Timeless Love Tales with Mr. Harrison. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever witnessed the power of second chances in your own life? Have you seen how time and growth can transform even the most broken relationships into something new and beautiful? Remember that sometimes the most powerful journeys aren't about finding new love, but about rediscovering what was always there beneath the pain. The connection that never truly died, just waited patiently for hearts to heal and wisdom to grow. Until next time, this is Mr. Harrison, reminding you that in life's most difficult chapters, we often find the courage to write our most beautiful endings.